if you look at the white voters without college degrees, this is a Trump base constituency, obviously. You see his huge numbers with this group. You see that this is a trouble sign for Harris. She also, in a place like Georgia, is not doing well with white college-educated voters. She probably wants to make up some ground with white college-educated voters across these battlegrounds as well, Kate.
We did great in 2016. We did much better in 2020. We got millions of more votes. But there has never been enthusiasm like we have now. I mean, I see it all over. There's never been anything like it. And I hear the polls are very close, and we have a little lead, and a little. I just find it hard to believe because, first of all, they've been so bad. They've done such a bad job, but that's why the enthusiasm is so good, because they never had anything to compare it by. You know, I ran, and I didn't have anything at all. I just was a successful businessman, and we did a good campaign. But the next time we had something special. We could talk about what we did, but we never could imagine we'd have borders where 20 million people have poured into our country.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I gotta tell you guys, it is not looking good for Kamala Harris's campaign, okay? And for multiple reasons that I'm going to talk about in this video, but one of the reasons has to do with a story that I did earlier today about Tim Sugar Walls' family, okay? That's my new nickname for Tim Walls, okay? I'm calling him Tim Sugar Walls. Tim Sugar Walls, okay? Tim Sugar Walls, his family came out and endorsed Trump, okay? His brother basically trashed Tim Walls, okay, on News Nation, and Trump has already taken advantage of this at his town hall, basically claiming that Tim Walls' Sugar Walls' whole family endorsed him. Take a look.
In my view, is early voting is about to start, and I don't know how many Americans are truly familiar with her positions of decriminalizing illegal immigration and free housing, health care, education. Tim Walz wants free college education, legal driver's licenses.
I was so honored today.
And she wants a path to citizenship.
His brother endorsed me.
I saw it.
And his whole family. I saw the picture. And honestly, it was a very nice looking family. But his brother endorsed me, and the whole family endorsed me. I said, who are all the people?
Let me play
Kamala. There's something weird with that guy. He's a weird guy. JD is not weird. He's a solid rock. I happen to be a very solid rock. We're not weird. We're other things perhaps, but we're not weird.
Yeah, so I personally think that Tim Sugar Walls is very weird. Okay, I think he's extremely weird. I think this is why his family is distancing themselves from Tim Walz, okay, because he's a weirdo. Okay, I think he had some major skeletons in his closet, and he's lucky that his brother spared him from exposing some of the weird things that Tim Walz is into. Again, this is why I'm calling him Sugar Walls, okay? Trump not only was roasting Tim Walz, but he also was roasting Kamala Harris, who currently is fuming over the fact that ABC News has repeatedly rejected her demands to rig the debate in her favor even more than it's already rigged in her favor, okay? And Trump spoke out about that as ABC News has basically finalized the rules to the debate, basically sticking with the same rules that Joe Biden and Trump had in the CNN debate. Take a look.
She kept looking down, up. Look, nobody wants to cover it. I know all about notes. I mean, you know, it's all right if people know that, but she wasn't supposed to have notes. So she's asked a question. She looks down. She keeps on. She had notes. That means she knew that she knew what was happening.
Did her campaign, when they said that they wanted to change the rules that they had agreed to, did they ask for notes? Did they ask for the debate?
They wanted notes.
They wanted to be seated, and they wanted your mic hot.
And they wanted a desk. They didn't want to do. I said, you got to do a stand-up.
After they already agreed to the other.
Yeah, but they wanted a desk from the beginning. You know who else wanted a desk? Sleepy Joe. He wanted it desk.
All right, we got to take a break. More with President Trump. We are in Harrisburg.
But they're very nasty, and I think a lot of people are going to be watching to see how nasty they are, how unfair they are. I agreed to do it because they wouldn't do any other network. The other thing is, her best friend is the head of the network. Her husband's best friend is married to the head of the network. And they're going to get the questions. I've already heard they're going to get the questions in advance. They even have Donna Brazile. Remember Donna Brazile? She gave Donna Brazile. She's the real beauty. Donna Brazile. She gave Hillary Clinton the questions. You remember that? And she works for ABC, and she's at the round table talking about the debate. So we're going to watch very closely, but you're not allowed to do it. We even have a clause in the contract. You can't give them the questions, but I'm not sure it's going to help her that much, though. I think you might give her the questions and give her the answers with the questions. I'm not sure it's going to help her. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's going to help her either, right? But one thing I do know is that the fact that Kamala Harris is so caught up on the debate rules and she is losing her mind because she cannot get the excuse me, I'm speaking moment that she wants so bad tells me everything I need to know about how internally these people are panicking, okay? They know that the momentum now is with Trump. After a whole month of nothing but positive Kamala Harris press, Kamala has not gotten the post-DNC bump that a lot of people thought that she would get that would put this race in a place where Kamala could feel comfortable going into the election knowing that, okay, I'm going to win, okay? However, that's not the case. In fact, if the race was held today, according to pollsters like Nate Silver, it's actually more likely that Trump is going to win. And in fact, Trump's odds of winning have went up since the DNC and the CNN interview, as it looks like, again, Trump is the one gaining the momentum despite the rigged mainstream liberal media polls. Take a look.
And Vice President Kamala Harris begins debate camp to prepare in Pittsburgh tomorrow ahead of her first face-to-face matchup with Donald Trump next week.
Mark Meredith is live at the White House. Hey, Mark.
Lauren, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, good morning. Friends, we are less than a week out for the first and potentially only presidential debate of these two candidates this cycle. And while they will be taking time to prepare right now, they're also reaching out to voters in swing states. Later today, Vice President Harris, she will be in New Hampshire talking about her economic plans for small businesses. Former President Trump, he'll be taking questions here on Fox. The latest prediction from data guru Nate Silver shows Trump still with a sizable advantage in the electoral contest with a 56% chance of winning, the highest he's seen since late July. Trump also leading with Hispanic voters on an interesting issue on handling immigration. Of course, an issue that is central to this election cycle. Still, Harris surrogates say it's important for her not to pivot too much away from her base.
I think it's as simple as letting Kamala be Kamala. She has her own views. We are all different, even if we've been a part of an administration, even if we're in the same political parties. We all have different nuances, different ways that we were raised, different things that we feel more passionately about. I think it could even be just an issue of, say, focus.
One word that we've heard so much about the last couple of weeks is momentum. The Harris campaign, Democrats insist they have it. There's a new memo out from Trump world insisting they've got the real momentum. They point to support from people like Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, Tulsi Gabbard, as well as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to show that they have a broader coalition of people that may appeal to voters in these swing states. So everybody fighting for that momentum.
Yeah, so it's not just pollster Nate Silver who is saying that, listen, if the election was held today, then it is likely that Trump would win, okay? And the odds have been going up since the DNC, after the CNN interview. You also have Polymarket. The betting markets also are betting that Trump is going to have the better chance of winning if the election were held today. And you're seeing that momentum is definitely swinging in Trump's favor. Now, why is it that you have pollsters like Nate Silver basically giving Trump the best chance of winning, despite the rigged polls basically showing the race even, and in some cases, slightly in Kamala Harris's favor? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, the fake liberal media polls are fake, okay? They are definitely a lot better than the internal polls. Also, on top of that, even the best polls for Kamala in the mainstream liberal media still have her significantly underperforming Biden in some key demographic groups, okay? And that is a huge problem for Kamala because we all know that Trump overperforms, okay? When it comes time to actually vote, more people will vote for Trump than what the polls indicated leading up to the election. That's what happened in 2016. That's what happened in 2020. So basically, going into the election, in order for Democrats to feel solid about their chances, they need to be blowing out President Trump, right? It needs to be a blowout. And the race is far from a blowout in the polls as of right now. In fact, in the best case scenario, it is a statistical tie, which again is bad news for Kamala Harris. Like, this is a terrible sign. Even CNN is admitting that, yeah, Kamala has to perform a lot better if she's going to win this race. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
This is Trump's biggest advantage, which is why he wants to hold it and why you see the vice president out doing economic speeches. Her ads are also tilting now heavily toward the economy. In Arizona, Trump's up 5 overall. Voters view him as the better candidate by 15 points on the economy. In Georgia, where Harris is tied, maybe +1, Trump has a slighter advantage. So you can see the trend here. In places where Harris is competitive or ahead, Trump's numbers are lower. Nevada is the outlier. This economy got thrown in the trash during COVID. But the key for Harris is to bring this Trump advantage down. Where she's winning in Wisconsin, she's up 6 in the state, Trump only +2 in the economy. This is her biggest challenge. If she can't catch Trump on the economy, at least make him +2 or +4, not +8, 16 or more. The economy.
It really blows my mind that you have all of these voters saying that, yeah, Trump is better on the economy, but I'm still going to vote for Kamala Harris. That to me is insane, okay? We have too many people in this country voting based off very dumb things, okay? They are irrational voters, okay? This economy is terrible. I'm not entirely sure why is it that this race is even close when Trump is blowing Kamala out on the two main issues, the economy and immigration. But unfortunately, we have a significant amount of people, aka women, cough, cough, that don't care about the economy. They don't care about immigration. They don't care about this country. All they care about is abortion, right? And I think that's honestly the only reason that this race is even close, if it actually really is close. The only reason is abortion. That's it, right? That and Trump derangement, right? Between abortion and Trump derangement, those are probably the main two reasons why the race is close. But I personally don't think that the race is as close as the mainstream liberal media is making it out to be.
Right now is Trump's biggest advantage by far.
All right, well, now you go down deep in the polling today.
Right.
There were some warning signs for Harris and specific vulnerability with key voting groups. What are they?
So let's look first. The gender gap gets talked about a lot. Let's look at women voters. If you look at these numbers, Harris is essentially tracking Biden, a little better in some places. She would probably like to improve these numbers, but when it comes to women, look at Harris now and Biden 2020, and they're relatively good right there. She would like to improve them, obviously, because she's struggling. One reason you want to improve them is because she is struggling a bit among men voters, male voters, especially when you look out in the western states. In 2020, Trump won them by 2 points in Arizona. He's up 14. In 2020, 12 and 10, that's about the same. But if you look at Nevada, +18, +5. So this is a problem for the vice president, without a doubt. She needs to try.
Yeah, so another issue for Kamala Harris, right? She's not getting the boost in female voters that she should be getting, considering Kamala Harris is a woman, right? Allegedly, okay? But Trump, on the other hand, is actually getting a boost among male voters. And because his numbers are going up among male voters, Kamala needs to have that boost among female voters match the boost that Trump is getting among male voters. However, Kamala is not doing that much better than Biden with female voters. Now, she's doing a little bit better, but she's not doing that much better, right? She needs to do a lot better, okay, with women than Biden did in order to have a chance, because that is her core demographic, right? The fact that you have Trump getting that boost among men, this is a great thing, because I'm hoping that that's what this election comes down to, right? The 2022 midterms were about women. Hopefully the pendulum swings the other way, and the 2024 election is about men. Hopefully men show up the same way that women showed up in 2022. Men show up in the 2024 election and they vote Republican. They vote the other way, okay? So again, I think that it's going to come down to the rational voters in this country, aka men, who are thinking about the border, they're thinking about the economy, they're thinking about the future of this country, rather than thinking about abortion.
Try to improve her standing among male voters. And again, you can trace a lot of that back to the economy, and people just don't know a lot about her. Here's one other thing quickly I want to show you, though. Hispanic voters are critical in both Arizona and Nevada. And look at this. Biden won by 24 points. Harris only by 6 in Arizona right now. Biden won in Nevada by 26, Harris by 20.
Yeah, again, another terrible sign, right? With Hispanic voters, Harris is struggling versus how Joe Biden was doing in 2020. Again, not a good sign. Now, in 2020, the Electoral College, that was close, okay? That was close. So if Harris is doing worse than Joe Biden, significantly worse among these key demographics, again, another terrible sign. This is not good at all. Not good at all.
smaller subset of voters here, so the margin of error is a little higher. So this might not be as bad as it looks, but it's still bad, and one of the places the vice president has to do some improvement among men, among Latinos. Most of all, that would help itself on the economy.
And what about independents and moderates?
So this is fascinating to me, and this just raises the stakes for the debate outside the chart here. Watch this when you bring it up. Independents and moderates, this is just independent voters, but the trend lines are similar with moderates. Look at how Trump is now winning in Arizona, in Georgia, in Michigan among independents, right? Biden won all of these battleground states among independents back in 2020. This is an area the vice president needs to improve her standing. Voters in the middle. These are people who self-identify as independents. You see very similar numbers among people who self-identify as moderates. She's struggling in the middle. She is viewed as more liberal than moderate Joe Biden. And so she's struggling a bit in the middle. But here's the opportunity. A lot of people don't know a lot about the vice president, which is why she's out there giving these speeches, right? Look at this. The percentage of voters in each of these battleground states who say they might change their mind. It's in the teens, 11% in Georgia, tends to be in the low to mid-teens in all these other battleground states. But look at the independents, 24%, 23%, 27%, 23%, 29%. They are open to changing their mind if Kamala Harris can prove herself on the economy and on leadership. These are the independent numbers. They're very similar among moderates. We don't talk much more about in this polarized climate, about the middle of the electorate. There is room for her to grow in the middle if she makes her case.
Yes.
Well, I think that's actually a vulnerability because the more that voters get to know about a candidate, generally, the less likable a candidate becomes. Again, Kamala Harris is struggling, okay, despite the fact that she had a whole month of nothing but positive press, nothing but fawning from the mainstream liberal media, the DNC, no interviews. And now post-DNC, she is doing worse than Joe Biden was doing in 2020. And it's not like Joe Biden was a very strong Democrat candidate, right? So, again, this is an absolute disaster for Kamala Harris. Like, these are terrible numbers. And these are probably the best numbers, right? The numbers that they're showing us in public, these are probably the best numbers. So I actually think that at this point, there's nowhere to go for Kamala Harris except down. I think she's actually hit her ceiling, okay? And this is why they're panicking about the debate coming up next week, because I think that the debate is going to be make or break. And I think it's going to be tough for Kamala Harris because she's rusty, right? She hasn't done any real interviews or had any real pushback. So her being on the debate stage for all that time with Trump, actually getting some pushback, actually going back and forth, I don't think she's going to be ready, man. I really don't. I don't think she's going to perform well. I think she's going to be extremely rusty. And I personally think that she's not going to have a great performance. And I think that Kamala needs a great performance, right? I don't think the pressure's on Trump. I think the pressure's on Kamala at this point, okay? I think the pressure's on her to have a great performance. She can't turn in a mediocre performance at that debate. She has to turn in a great performance, okay? That's what has to happen. So I personally think that this is bad news. This is actually terrible news for Kamala Harris right now.
When you look at the numbers of 268, 269 at the end of the day, right? Any tiny margin of these groups matters so much. All right.
Absolutely.
John, thank you so much for all of that. So let's go now to Scott Jennings, Kate Bedingfield. So, Kate, Harris is up in Wisconsin and Michigan. Let's just start with that, where John started. And these are massive turnarounds over the past weeks from Biden, and now outside the margin of error. Do you feel great about this?
I feel good. I feel encouraged. I wouldn't say I feel great because I think the totality of the numbers show that this is still and is going to be an incredibly, incredibly close race. We just heard John go through it. I think what the numbers today show is that Kamala Harris has more pathways, more conceivable pathways to 270 than Trump does, or at least than Trump felt like he did 6 weeks ago when Joe Biden was at the top of the ticket. I think there's no question his path has narrowed. So I think these numbers should give Democrats, they should be heartened. I think it's showing that she continues to build strength in the coalition that she needs to win. And as John was just saying, that she has room to grow. Trump, I think, probably has a little bit less room to grow, in part because he is so well defined. I think it is encouraging. I don't think by any stretch the Democrats should view this as a slam dunk, though. There is a long way to go in this race, and it's clearly very, very close.
I mean, Scott, obviously a few weeks ago, pretty much all those swing states, Trump thought he had it locked up. He was talking about New Hampshire, right? So it is a small solace to say, oh, well, she's only up 1% in Georgia. We can still do that. I mean, it's still got to be pretty grim to look at these for Trump's team, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, he was underestimated badly in several of these states by a lot of polling in 2016 and 2020, including in some CNN polling, I might add. I agree with Kate. I think it's an incredibly close race. Either of these candidates could win any of these states we're talking about. And I also agree with John that the ticket to victory for the middle and for some of these male voters that they're competing for is really to talk about the economy. I had to chuckle a little bit today listening to her talk about her tax policy. I mean, she's like, see, Joe Biden's tax policy is only going to kill you as much as, Jason Voorhees. But I'm more like Mike Myers. See, isn't that better? No, it's not better. They're both scary as hell. And either way, you're going to be dead. And so I think she's going to have to come up with something a little better than I'm going to raise your taxes a little less than Joe Biden is if she wants to do economic competition
on the capital gain specifically.
Trump.
On the main tax policy, there, at least as of now, has been no difference between the two. Kate, let me just ask you, though, one thing that John mentioned there when we're talking about these different voting groups, and Scott just brought up men, but I want to ask about independents and moderates, right? Those independents that he was looking at in swing states, 25 to 30% of them are open to changing their mind at this point. All right? Is this something that worries you, or is this something that actually makes you feel good because you are supporting the candidate about whom people know less?
Well, I think it certainly shows that she has more room to grow. And so I think that as she is continuing to define herself out on the campaign trail, also we've now passed Labor Day, so you have voters really starting to tune in a way that, historically they don't pre-Labor Day. So this is really a moment for her to make her case. And she also has Donald Trump out there, her opponent, continuing to try to throw everything at the wall against her to see what sticks. He's not really making a coherent and cohesive argument against her. And he's continuing to use some of these same, tired, ugly, personal attacks, which we know that moderate and independent voters are tired of. They rejected it in 2020. And we've seen in all of the polling since this race started to come together about a year ago when it was going to be Trump versus Biden, we saw that people said, we don't want this rematch. We don't want more of this. So they're getting more of the same from Trump. They're hearing something new and different from Kamala Harris that they're...
Yeah, new and different, right? Except they're not. Okay, so again, what you have there is cope, right? Again, that's not how politics work. Okay, the more that people learn about a candidate, the worse that they get. It is rare when the more that people learn about a candidate, the better that they get. No, Kamala Harris has had nothing but fawning and positive press for the past month. Now that she's actually getting some pushback, there's some negative press about her coming out on a daily basis, her momentum has stopped. Okay, it is halted. Okay, she's not performing better than where Biden was performing in 2020. That is a bad sign. That is an absolutely terrible sign, right? So to say that, oh, well, she has some room to grow, maybe, but that's typically not how it works, okay? Typically, again, the approval rating of a candidate is going to be the highest when they're fresh, when they're new, okay, when you don't know that much. And then once people actually start to get to know that person, it tanks, right? And that's what happened to Kamala Harris in the Democrat primary in 2019. Okay, she started off as the hot candidate where everybody was like, okay, she has a chance to win. And as soon as people started to get to know her after the debate, she just tanked, right? And that could very well happen. That could very well happen after next week's debate. We will see. But as of right now, I would not be feeling too good if I'm Kamala Harris. I would be feeling okay, better than I was probably a few weeks ago if I was Trump, because it seems as if her whole momentum has halted. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.